If the devil was your doctor and could prescribe but one drug, what do you think it would be? Stay tuned, and we're going to talk about that today. Well, hey folks, my name is Jim Merle, and I appreciate you one more time taking a pause to join us today on the Transplant Helper podcast / YouTube video series, The Transplant Helper. I just want to stop today and talk about a subject that I think is very, very important for us to understand so that we can all feel the camaraderie between us all as we talk about today the drug in your medicine cabinet or medicine bag, Prednisone. As someone referred to me one time on Twitter, the devil's drug, because there's no doubt in my mind, I think all of us universally would probably refer to it in some way as that. Now, if you're a post-transplant patient, more than likely to some extent, you have been on or are currently on the drug Prednisone. It's a corticosteroid. That's different from an antibiotic steroid, but it's a corticosteroid, and it's used in a transplant patient as an anti-inflammatory / anti-rejection / immunosuppressant drug. Now, just process that for a moment, because I think most of us, when we look into our medicine bags, we see the major expensive, fancy-sounding drugs, such as our Prograf or our tacrolimus. We see our microphenolate or Myfortix. We see our Valsites and such as that, those antivirals, and we think, well, those expensive medications that I've never heard of before, those are probably the important drugs in my bag. And something as simple as Prednisone, which oftentimes is given to someone who's just gone in to the general practitioner with a cold, they're given Prednisone. It's kind of a pick-me-up. So is that all it is? That's not all it is to you as a post-transplant patient. It is a major, major drug in your medicine bag that helps you to be immunosuppressed, therefore preventing rejection. So never discount and never discredit the power of a little small pill, Prednisone. Now, let me make an announcement before we go any farther. The reason I'm choosing today to talk about this little pill, Prednisone, and why I've decided today is the day to talk about it, is because I received a phone call today from my transplant coordinator, which told me today was my last day on this drug. Gone. I don't have to take it anymore, at least for the time being. Most people don't get to that point, however. In the transplant life, generally speaking, we're all condemned to take Prednisone like many of the other immunosuppressants, like many of the other anti-rejection medications. We're condemned to take that for the rest of our lives. But I've been blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, and I'm being pulled off of that kind of as an experiment, but I've been pulled off of the drug to see how I do. Now, I've been on a very, very, very minimum low dose for quite a while, down to 2.5 milligrams versus the nearly 60 milligrams most people start out on, as well as the way I did about 4 years ago. So don't get me wrong, I've been weaned off of this, but I'm off of it for now, at least for the next month, until I go back for my biopsy and left and right heart cath to make sure everything remained okay. So let's pray that it stays that way. But nonetheless, why do we call Prednisone the devil's drug, or why would we all despise it or hate taking the drug like we do? Well, I'm going to reach here and grab my phone, because I just want to read off of some of the more common websites the typical side effects that come along with Prednisone. I think as I read these, if you're on Prednisone right now as a transplant patient, you're probably going to say, yep, that's me. That's exactly what I deal with, and that's why I don't like the drug. Sleep problems, insomnia, mood changes, increased appetite, weight gain, acne, increased sweating, dry skin, thinning hair, bruising, discoloration, slow healing, headaches, dizziness, a spinning sensation, nausea, stomach pain, bloating, a change in the shape of the body, especially in your arms, legs, face, neck, breast, or waist, and on the list goes. That's the common side effects. You get a little bit farther down, of course, like many drugs, they get worse, and you really don't want to read any farther. Now, the typical side effects, at least the most common side effects that you're going to notice in people, and you've probably seen this one if you're not already experiencing it, when you go to transplant clinic, if someone is on Prednisone in the higher dosage, probably early on post-transplant, you're going to notice what is often referred to as that moon face. You know, the cheeks and the jaw area is going to be swollen or puffy. That's because of the prednisone. All the drugs they're on set aside, that's going to be because of the prednisone. It causes that weight gain or those fatty deposits, that fluid deposit, whatever it is, to take up in the face. And so you'll see someone that looked one way pre-transplant, and with a matter of a week or two post-transplant, they have those cheeks kind of like a chipmunk. And sometimes if you're a very vain person, that can cause you to be a little bit embarrassed or something, especially if you notice that or someone asks about it. You may not have gained 3 pounds post-transplant, but someone sees that extra weight in your cheeks and they say, wow, have you picked up a few pounds? What's going on? No, I haven't. It's just the prednisone. But there is the common side effect also of an increased appetite. Hence, there's oftentimes some weight gain that goes along with that. So be aware that that is a side effect that some people despise because they have to be much more careful, especially if controlling the weight and such as that has been a problem pre-transplant. Now, let me add to that, and it is another dreaded side effect that we all deal with, or most deal with. Some form of sleeplessness or insomnia is oftentimes very common among patients on higher doses of prednisone. Now, if you've gotten prednisone from going to the doctor after a common cold and maybe only been on it for a week, even you have probably experienced that. Maybe you didn't know what it was. I know I've got several children, and if we ever take our children to the pediatrician and he gives them that shot of a steroid or maybe that liquid of steroid, we just dread it because we know, they're going to be running around the house just wild until they're off of it. Well, adults are not exactly the same in that way. We just won't be able to sleep. We won't be able to rest. There'll be a sense of restlessness. Can't go to sleep. That insomnia that goes on for days and days. The jerking in the legs and the arms and in the whole body that seems to awake you from a sleep. All those things are aggravating. But probably one of the more common side effects that's going to be noticed among your peers, and I mean by that your spouses, your children, your parents, your friends, whatever, is going to come down to the mood swings, the irritability, probably, and could be on long-term anxiety and depression. Now, they may actually notice that you're having problems like that, even sometimes before you do. I can remember post-transplant, especially in the first week or two, and my family would come into the hospital room, try to spend time with me, try to, try to be nice, try to be a visitor, which we talked about on other programs. I'll link that, below and such. But they would try to sit down and just visit, try to love me like they always had. And I would say and do things, and all they knew to do was just to get up and leave. And at that point, in the moment at least, I didn't even care. It was the medicine talking. It was the mood swings. And, I'm not going to claim that in the last 4 years that has not continued to an extent to be a problem, albeit as the dosage has come down, I hope that some of that has gotten better. But again, the anxiety, the depression, which we're going to talk about on another program, that comes along with it. And sometimes that's a part of transplant in general, but sometimes that's a part of the side effects of this medication. But one of the side effects that comes along with this, which is kind of goes along with the sleeplessness and such as that most transplant patients complain about in the onset and continue to complain about, is the jitteriness. Now, I can remember early on, and I'm not really doing this anymore, but I can remember early on my hands especially just continually shook, just to the point of being completely aggravating and embarrassing. I kept my hands in my pocket a lot because I felt like people were looking at me like, what's wrong with him? Is he afraid? Is he scared of something? Does he have Parkinson's or something? What's wrong with him? No, I was on prednisone, and rather at that time, probably 60 milligrams a day and very high dosage. I'm on 2.5 milligrams the last 4 or 5 months, and now as I just toss the bottle, 0. So, but those higher doses cause problems. And so, shaking and quivering and all of that in your hands, and it's awful. Heaven forbid that someone go in, as I enjoy doing, go into a Mexican restaurant, or if you like Chinese, go into a Chinese restaurant, or sit down at the table and try to eat rice or try to eat peas on a spoon. Couldn't do it. It would fall right off. I had a friend post-transplant, which he still deals with this a good bit. He's still on higher dosage of prednisone. And he had someone one day make fun of him, a stranger make fun of him in a restaurant and ask, "What's wrong with you?" Because he could not hold a spoon to eat his food. Friends, it's terrible. It's embarrassing. It's aggravating. You get to a point where you don't want to eat any food like that. I found myself wanting to make a sandwich out of everything, and even that wasn't that easy. But try to drink and spill water on your face. I pray every day for anyone that has something like Parkinson's, something like that causes them to live a life like this. But again, a common side effect that we deal with. Now, on top of that, you feel like that on the inside. I tried to do a little experiment where I took an electric toothbrush and put it down in a glass of water, hoping it would cause the bubbles to come up so I could illustrate this, and it just wouldn't work. But that's how you feel on the inside. You feel like an Alka-Seltzer has been dropped into your body, and you're just bubbling, like you're vibrating on the inside. Terrible feeling. So weight gain, yes, very well. Puffiness in your face, absolutely. You'll experience it. Anxiety, sleeplessness, yes. Shaking, quivering, all that, absolutely. It's the devil's drug, friends. But it's very, very important. Let me say it again. Prednisone, even though you may go to the pharmacy and it be anywhere from absolutely nothing, $0 to $8, $10, most expensive probably, maybe $12. Even though it doesn't seem like much, it's very important. So when the doctor prescribes you with prednisone, don't be like I've been. And I'm not saying I've ever really actually done this, but I remember running low on prednisone thinking, that's no big deal. I don't like the junk anyway. I don't care for it. It's not Prograf. I don't have to run off to the pharmacy for this. I can take it a day or two, or I may just not even take this stuff. No, take it. Take it. It's very important. Very, very important. It's going to keep you alive. Keep that in mind. So, in spite of all the side effects and everything that's going on, it really matters. Now, if you've had side effects other than that, I'd like to hear about them. So, hit me up in the comments below. I'll get right back to you. I love to get comments and feedback. I get a lot of that. So you can hit me up in the comments below this video. You can also hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle's always in the corner of the screen. It's transplant_help, and I'm usually very quick to get back with you and communicate on that. You can find us on the web at transplanthelper.com, thetransplanthelper.com, and you can hit the contact button right there. I'll get back with you. All those ways, I'm open for your questions. I'm just here to help. This, like many of the videos, may not be as practical to you, but I think if you're a transplant patient, you've probably experienced it. And so we'll just come back another day and try this again. And until next time, stay stronger, friends.